Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey Board of Public Utilities Clean Energy Program, the New Jersey Education Association, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, the Fidelco Group, Johnson & Johnson, Georgian Court University, and by NJM Insurance Group, serving New Jersey's drivers, homeowners, and business owners for more than 100 years. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ and by New Jersey Globe.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at it.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are. There is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, this is Steve Adubato. Thank you so much for joining us remotely once again. We are honored to be joined. Last time he was with us in the studio at NJTV. Now he's with us remotely. Brandon McKoy, President, New Jersey Policy Perspective. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Steve. How's everything?
Doing all right. Let folks know as we put up the website for Policy Perspective what the organization's all about and why you matter now more than ever.
Yeah, we're a think tank, the Think and Do tank that does research on a variety of public policy issues affecting the state of New Jersey, especially tax and budget policy, immigration, healthcare, economic security, and we really pay attention to the ways in which those policies impact everyday people in our state and really value equity and to make sure that folks who are facing the most challenges or folks who have been historically discriminated against are being centered in every policy conversation in the state.
Along those lines, Brandon, our series, Confronting Racism, there's so many facets to it, but you mentioned so many different issues. So in that context, the advent of COVID-19, as we're taping this on the 13th of July, it'll be seen later, the impact of COVID-19 on the people that you and your organization are most concerned about, that we must be all concerned about, those who are frankly the most vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really disproportionate and really damaging impact, but it's made worse by the inequities that have existed in our state and in our country going back for decades, if not centuries, right? A lack of, or rather a significant disparity in access to healthcare, disparity in income, disparity in home ownership, disparity when it comes to access to critical resources that prevent people from falling into poverty. You know, education, you could go down the line, no matter what you look at, people of color, communities of color, and low-income individuals are really at the bottom of the ladder when you look at those metrics. And so you have something like the coronavirus hit, and it's going to have the worst impact and have the most damaging effect on folks who don't really have a lot of ways to weather such crazy storms, right? They don't have a lot of opportunity to have more resiliency in their lives because they don't have a lot of savings. They don't have access to high quality healthcare or affordable healthcare. And that just really creates a poor situation where now, as we're going through the effects of this pandemic and the accompanying economic recession that is getting worse over time, you're having sort of a split in who's experiencing the negative impacts of these phenomena the worst. You're having folks who are in the middle class and above, you know, they're feeling it, but they're not really hurting tremendously. And then folks who are in the lower middle class and below are really getting hurt badly, losing their jobs, you know, losing opportunities to earn an income, losing opportunities to put food on the table. And it's really concerning how long this is going to last.
You know, Brandon, you and your colleagues, and it's not the first time, the last time you were with us in the studio, called for it again with Policy Perspective. You're calling for an increase in the millionaires tax. You're calling for increasing taxes at this time with these significant economic challenges across the board, with people losing their jobs, with businesses folding. You're calling for an increase in the millionaires tax. Make that case.
Yeah, well,
increase on tax on those who earn $1 million or more. I should have clarified that. I'm sorry.
Right. So if you're earning $1 million or more still in this economy, you're doing pretty well, right? Like even after all the losses that people have had, after all the hits that the economy has taken, if you're still earning over $1 million annually, you're doing exceedingly well. And actually, a lot of our research shows, and research from national organizations shows, that the wealthy have actually continued to get richer over the first half of 2020. They haven't really taken the hit like everybody else has. And so really what we're pushing for here is just New Jersey needs to have a tax code across the board, whether it's income, wealth, whatever sort of sector you want to look at, that prioritizes equity and prioritizes fairness. And right now in New Jersey, if you earn $80,000 a year, you pay the same income tax rate as somebody who earns $500,000. That's not fair. If you earn $20,000 a year, let's say, you pay the same tax rate as somebody who earns $4 million. That's not fair. And there's more tax brackets on New Jersey's income tax code under 75,000 than there are over 75,000. So what we're merely saying is, let's recognize disparities in wealth. Let's recognize that there's a huge difference between $80,000 and $500,000. And also, as we think about how do we recover from this crisis, we know historically, looking at states that did well coming out of the Great Recession, they raised revenue in an equitable and progressive manner early on. New Jersey, we know, did not take that tact, and we had one of the slowest, longest, most painful recoveries from the Great Recession of any state. So let's not make that mistake again. Let's raise revenue, and that way we can afford to provide relief to families, workers, and businesses who are facing tough times right now. But if we don't do that, we're just going to have to borrow money, and I'm sure we'll get to that at some point, or we're going to be stuck waiting on the federal government to send relief. And honestly, I don't want to take that gamble. I don't see that coming anytime soon.
I asked you this in the studio last time. I'm going to do it again. Aren't you concerned? Shouldn't we be concerned about those who are earning $500,000, $1 million more? If in fact their taxes are raised, they say, look, I'm out. I'm out of here. And John Bramnick, the Assembly Republican leader, has said it. Others have said it. Business leaders we've talked to have said it. You tax those folks enough, the folks who pay the most in taxes are out of here. We lose them, we lose their revenue. You say?
I say the data doesn't show that. We've added high wealth individuals and high income individuals on a consistent clip over the past 30 years. You go back to 1994, 1995, New Jersey had about 10,000 high income households, people who earned over $500,000. As of 2017, we had over 65,000 high income households. That's a six-fold increase. And we increased taxes a couple of times over that period. The only time that number dropped was during a recession, which makes a lot of sense. But people aren't responding to tax increases. The idea that I'm going to pick up and move my entire life because of an extra 2 cents on every dollar I make over $1 million is a little bit nuts. And I would also say that the reason people will leave New Jersey is because they cannot rely on our assets. They know that they cannot rely on NJ Transit to get into Manhattan in 45 minutes. They can't rely on the idea that their kid can go to Rutgers and get a high quality education for an affordable rate. They can't rely on the idea that the environment that they live in is going to be healthy because of all of our environmental challenges. That's what's going to get people to leave New Jersey. The idea that it's the end all and be all is always tax increases is just a myth that is perpetuated because people want to be able to be greedy and hold on to dollars that they really made because they were in a state that provided them the assets to be able to do so.
Well, I'll tell you what, as we wrap up this segment, Brandon McKoy, president of New Jersey Policy Perspective, the debate, the argument, the contentious back and forth between Governor Murphy, who believes a lot of the things you just said, and some of the Republicans in the legislature who don't, and some more moderate, leaning conservative Democrats like Senate President Steve Sweeney who don't believe it. We're going to see how that plays out. We'll continue not just to cover it, but to analyze it. And I promise you, Brandon McKoy, we'll continue to talk to you because your perspective is so important. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, I'm Steve Adubato. We'll be right back.
To watch more one-on-one with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to be joined once again by Ralph Izzo, Chairman, President, and CEO, PSEG. Good to see you, Ralph.
It's great to see you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Well, last time we were together in the NJTV studio, had a compelling conversation about energy, the future of energy. We're taping this on the 13th of July. The impact of COVID-19 on the world of energy. Short description?
Sure, it's been significant, right? I mean, so half of our employees are working remotely. The other half, we've had to change all of their work practices in terms of where they get their equipment from, how we organize them. When they're on the job site, do they work with the same crew over and over? When they're maintaining power plants, how many people can be in a closed space at once? So it's had a pronounced effect on all of our operations. It's had a pronounced effect on our customers. Commercial load is down, residential load is up. Payment patterns, sadly, are lagging quite significantly. We're seeing the economic impact on our customers. It has ripple effects on us. I don't know if that was short enough for you, but.
Well, no, it's short and it's compelling and it's important because all of us who rely on your company, sometimes we go, well, hey, what's up? And we need whatever. We need you to fix X. We need you to deal with this, as if you and your colleagues, particularly the folks out in the field, are not facing a whole another set of challenges in addition to the fact they're trying to protect their families.
And you see, and it's so good for you to note that. I mean, obviously, both of us, I'm sure you've done this many times, please allow me just to spend 10 seconds to say thank you to all of the frontline employees who have kept us healthy and have put their own health on the line. And my condolences to any family that's experienced firsthand the ravages of this terrible virus. But if our employees weren't doing what they were doing, then those folks couldn't be providing the services they are. I passed one of our crews the other day that was clearing a circuit from trees, and it was 90 degrees and stifling, and they were out there with their masks on and keeping their distance in this heat. It permeates everything we do, and the challenges are real. But the beauty of it is the precautions we're taking appear to be working. If I look at the infection statewide, we're running at about half that infection rate with our employees. So we're able to keep them safe, and that's a priority for us.
Let me disclose two things. One, PSEG, a major underwriter, supporter of public broadcasting, NJTV News, as well as our production company, the Caucus Educational Corporation. And let me disclose this as well. We had some power lines were down after a tree came down after a storm, and all of your folks were out with protective equipment doing what they need to do, and about 10 neighbors all looking and counting on what they were doing. So just saying thanks.
That's great.
Let's shift gears.
Sure.
PSEG, major announcement. Your foundation arm announced $1 million commitment to fight racial inequity. This whole initiative, the Power, Equity, and Social Justice Initiative, what is it? And why is it incredibly important now more than ever?
Yeah, so we view ourselves as a corporate citizen even more than we view ourselves as an energy provider. And as you were talking about COVID before, we did $2.5 million for COVID-related charitable organizations. We've given away 50,095 masks, 200,000 gloves. And what we've come to realize is that if you're not part of the problem when it comes to diversity and inclusion and systemic racism, then you ought to join and be part of the solution. And candidly, this has been a learning lesson for me, Steve. I've always sort of put the blinders on and said, look, our job is to keep the lights on and gas flowing. And other things that I may have personal feelings about aren't the responsibility of the company. But this has gotten to the point where it is the responsibility of every person who views themselves as a leader. New Jersey is going to be majority minority in terms of its workforce within a coming few years. We are one of the most, if not the most diverse state in the nation. Our employees are diverse. Our suppliers are diverse. They need to know that we're in their corner. And we have looked, our human resources team has looked at all sorts of studies that show not only is there a subset of explicit bias in the communities in which we operate, but there's a fair amount of implicit bias. Studies where you just send the same resume out, but you change the gender of the person on the resume, or you change the ethnicity or the implied race of the name of the person on the resume, and different outcomes result. We just can't have that. We need to have the best out of every one of our resources that are available to us, both in terms of suppliers, in terms of labor pool, and in terms of the people we have at hand. I want everybody to believe that PSEG is a great place to work, where everything that makes up your background and your experience is valued and appreciated and can be brought to the table.
Well, simply put, Ralph, what you're really saying is the bottom line being right isn't enough, not even close.
That's exactly right. The bottom line is more than just dollars and cents. It's the way in which we treat people, whether those people are our customers, our employees, our suppliers, our shareholders, our stakeholders. It's really about people. It's about and it's about the greater community that we serve.
Shifting gears again, we're involved in an initiative, I think working with the Clean Energy Program, with the Board of Public Utilities, trying to promote public awareness around quote unquote clean energy. I've asked you this before. What does it mean to you now as we do this program in mid-July 2020? Clean energy, define it, and how is that initiative affected by COVID-19?
Yeah, well, emphatically, yes. So clean energy to me is sort of, I put it in two categories. Number one is the traditional category. You know, we don't want acid rain, we don't want mercury, we don't want soot. We all know that. We've gotten over that for the past few decades. But now it's this heightened level of concern over carbon dioxide, what changes the climate. And if you think about what a terrible job the world has done to coordinate its response to COVID-19, something that is solvable, fixable, avoidable if we coordinated our activities. So we really need to get serious about climate change. My hat's off to the BPU President Joe Fioralicio and Governor Murphy for the things they've been saying and doing. And we have a 5-point plan that says, here's what we need to do to battle climate change. Preserve existing nuclear, invest more heavily in energy efficiency, invest in offshore wind, invest in solar, and electric transportation system. Then the federal government needs to put a price on carbon so that we can measure the relative importance of each of those 5 steps and make sure that we're making the wisest economic decision, not because profits should dominate, but because we want to get the most out of every environmental dollar that we spend.
Well, simply put, before I let you go, Ralph, the concept of clean energy and making real improvements in this regard doesn't stop because of COVID-19.
Oh, no, not at all. As a matter of fact,
we don't have that luxury.
We don't. As a matter of fact, you've seen that there have been some studies that have pointed out that where the environment is a little bit more stressed, the effects of COVID-19 are more pronounced. So the health consequences from the more traditional pollutants are obvious, that have been obvious to us for years, were further illuminated by COVID-19.
Ralph, I look forward to the next conversation we have, and I am hoping and praying it can be in our studio at NJTV, but if not, we'll keep doing this and getting better at it. But we thank you for your time and wish you and all your colleagues, particularly those on the front line who are protecting us, all the best. Thank you so much, Ralph.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm Steve Adubato. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are honored to be joined once again by Tara Dowdell, who is founder and president of the TGD Speakers and Tara Dowdell Group. Good to see you, Tara.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me again.
Well, you know, I want to talk specifically about this particular initiative. We've collaborated with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Tim Sullivan and the team there. There is an initiative they're involved in with you and a couple of other organizations, 3 organizations that will enhance the effort to aid minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. Talk about it and why it's so especially important right now.
So this is really exciting work, and we're happy to be a partner with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. So the New Jersey Economic Development Authority has been rolling out a lot of funding programs to support our small businesses across New Jersey, and they're focusing on 25 employees or fewer, and they are also prioritizing women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses. And why this is important is what has happened from a policy perspective with a lot of the programs that have existed, PPP, is you're asking businesses with 5 employees, 10 employees to compete against a business with 400 employees. And so what these programs are designed to really help the businesses who need it the most, who are often locked out of these larger programs at the federal level. And so it's been really exciting. And then the emphasis on ensuring that we reach, you know, the minority businesses, the women-owned businesses. These aren't businesses that don't work hard. These aren't businesses that don't contribute. These are businesses that revitalize some of our distressed communities. These are businesses that employ people who might not otherwise have an opportunity. These are businesses that add value, healthcare, education, et cetera. Sure. And so ensuring that they are valued and are given that access in a way that's usually reserved for larger businesses is really something tremendous that the state's doing, and we're helping to market.
So, Tara, I'm going to be clear. Is the Economic Development Authority providing loans, grants, what?
So it's an array. So they have some grant funding. So the most recent program that they undertook were grants up to $10,000. So they did not have to be repaid. And they're also rolling out some loan programs that are forthcoming. Again, focusing on the micro businesses, the true small businesses. And that's where you actually get the growth from. A lot of people think that the bigger companies is where the growth comes from. It's actually these smaller businesses. So the fact that we're having public policy really focus there, it's good for all New Jerseyans. And so they've engaged myself and they've engaged two other agencies, women-owned, minority-owned agencies, to do this outreach to ensure that it's done in a way that's very inclusive.
I want to clarify. So it's 360 marketing and PR.
Yes.
And also Medina equals city. Is that right?
Yes, Medina equals city, which is located in Newark, my agency in Jersey City. And then in Camden, 360 marketing and PR is located in Camden. So we've really covered the state.
Absolutely. Tara, let me follow up on this. It's interesting to me. So our not-for-profit production company, the Caucus Educational Corporation, affected by COVID-19 in terms of sponsorship, in terms of the way we're broadcasting, not in the studio, et cetera. But also, you know that I do leadership development, communication, training, et cetera, in my other life. And that business is affected, hurt, changed, et cetera. However, in listening to you, what I want to follow up on is this. So I'm affected, you're affected with your business. Other women and minority-owned businesses, veterans affected as well. Do you believe with COVID-19 to date, as we tape this in mid-July, that you're affected differently and worse?
Yes, I do. I do think there is a disparity. And because, first of all, we already know from a health standpoint,
that's right,
that myself as a Black American, I'm more vulnerable. You know, we are
social determinants, excuse me for interrupting, social determinants of health. Again, something Micheline Davis has talked to us about and others. But that's a piece of that's the health equation. Go ahead.
Right. But I have to be more careful, right? I have to be as a Black woman. I mean, even the infant mortality, the maternal mortality rate, that's another big issue. I'm despite, and all of these issues, remember, for Black Americans, it actually supersedes whether you what your income level is, your level of education, what neighborhood you live in, how great the hospital is in that neighborhood. There is something, you know, that we're less likely to be given as much pain medication. There's a lot of issues there. There's bias within our healthcare system, and the data bears it out. So I have that concern to worry about. I have an immunocompromised mother, so I have that concern to worry about. And then on top of it, I'm already in a good environment. I have my value as a business is often just, I'm subjected to, we see it, it's equal pay, right? I'm subjected to that as an owner, right? In the same way that I, as a woman, just a woman period, I have to deal with the headwinds of people wanting to pay me less. When you add the fact that I am a Black American on there, and that so many people have internalized stereotypes, and then they project those stereotypes, that comes to the negotiating table every time I sit down.
Just because I offer a service with our communications company, you offer a service, same service. You offer the same, if not better quality. You're likely to be paid less.
I am likely to be paid less, and the data bears it out. I mean, if you look at even angel investors, right? This is why this funding that the state and that the NJEDA is doing and that Governor Murphy is doing, this is why it's so important. You look at, you know, the access to capital piece. I mean, there are so many Black women-owned businesses who can come to the table, and they did a test. They tested the banks in California. It was a big study that was done, and they sent people in with equal qualifications, and some were slightly better, and the Black businesses were not likely to get the loans despite having equal or better qualifications.
That's like business redlining.
Testers.
That's like business redlining.
Right. And the testers went in, and this is what the data showed. You can't argue with the fact that this was an experiment that was done. Equal qualifications. They even bumped some of the Black business owners qualifications up, and this is what the testers came out with.
Wow. So once again, this EDA, New Jersey Economic Development Authority, that's an important initiative that is in fact looking to help women, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses that have been impacted by the coronavirus, and well beyond. Tara, as always, thank you for being with us. Thank you for educating us, inspiring us, and frankly, challenging us, because we must do better. We have to keep trying to do better, and keep doing the work you're doing in the media. We see you nationally as well on MSNBC and other places. Tara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Adubato.
Thank you for spotlighting, Steve.
Sorry for interrupting. Catch you next time, folks.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey Board of Public Utilities Clean Energy Program, the New Jersey Education Association, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, the Fidelco Group, Johnson & Johnson, Georgian Court University, and by NJM Insurance Group. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ and by New Jersey Globe.
Hi, I'm Eric. You might see me as an ordinary person, but I've been living with a brain injury for nearly 2 years. One of my struggles is short-term memory loss. At Opportunity Project, I'm given hope and support, and I've gained my comments back through the job placement program. Despite my challenges, I have a reason to keep improving. Today, even though life has changed me, I believe that anything is possible.
If you have a brain injury, you don't have to face your road to recovery alone.